right, welcome, my dear friends, here for our divorce cure action plan. Just a little bit of a side note, you may have been following us here for a while with High Thrive Coaching. I'm Heather Choate, but I was just really praying about what would be helpful for you, especially if you are facing divorce, if papers have been filed, or if your spouse is talking about wanting a divorce. Maybe they're saying, I'm not in love with you anymore, or maybe they're in love with someone else. Recently, I've just been working with a very close friend whose wife is also pulling away and has served divorce papers. And what if there was a way that we could have an action plan, something that could take the fear out of the situation, the overwhelm out of the situation, and give tangible steps that you can take to stop that divorce? So that's exactly what I want to share with you today, in a way that we've never ever explained it before, because like I said, this is specifically for those that are already in the divorce process, or their spouse is seriously talking about divorce, like there's plans for divorce. And so if that's not you, that's okay. You can go to some of our other trainings and our other programs, if your spouse is just checked out, maybe you're even separated. But this is really the most intense situation, and it needs to be dealt with in a slightly different way. And so we're going to go into that. Before we get into all of that, though, and I understand that this can be a very overwhelming and challenging time, I really want you to go back in time with me and think about the best days of your marriage. Think about those really happy times with your spouse. For you, what did that look like? What did that feel like? What was the expression on your husband's face or your wife's face? What kind of things did you talk about? How would you spend your time? Were you happy just doing nothing at all? Would you rush home to be together? I think back on the happiest times in my marriage, and that's definitely how it was. It's easy conversations. It's cuddling on the couch. Just having his arm around me. Don't care what we're doing, but just being so close and being excited to talk to each other, excited to connect with each other, excited to share with each other. That feeling of I'm important and I'm significant, right? And they are important and they're significant to me. That feeling of just connectedness and security feels so good, right? So how good would it feel to get back to that? How good would it feel to know that your partner has ripped up the divorce papers, they've thrown them in the trash, whatever that looks like, right? They've called it off and they're saying, you know what? I want to work on this. I want us to have a chance here. I want us to try to be happy again. So that might seem far-fetched, but it's absolutely possible. And this is exactly how you can get there through this action plan. We've tested this specific divorce cure method with over dozens of clients already. And the results that we've gotten are incredible. They're really, really incredible. I talked about my friend, right? And the progress that he's already making as he's applying this himself. And what we've seen people that their spouse was really bitter, really sad, in a lot of pain towards them. Maybe there were things going on for years that hadn't been resolved. And we've seen that turned back into them wanting to come back home, and lots of cuddles, lots of snuggling, lots of love again. We've seen, a husband who did not want to fix the marriage turn into him coming back home, into him saying, I want to work on this. I'm willing to give this another try. And her feeling just that closeness and that security and that warmth. And she describes it as just like that lovey, warm feeling inside her whole body, knowing that he's willing to work on things again with her. And we've also seen affairs that almost ruined a marriage that was completely eliminated. He was in love with someone else. He was making plans to live with someone else and to leave her and their first child. And we saw him come back home and to end the divorce, to put his wedding ring literally back on his finger. And we'll go into that a little bit later. I'm going to share that story specifically with you so that you can see what this looks like and how it works in reality, right? So again, we developed this method after working with thousands of couples just like you and testing it with many, many other couples that were in the divorce process. Like I said, it's a little bit different. We have to use some different strategy and some different method when our spouse is pushing for divorce, because time is not on our side. It's not. It's like that hourglass has been flipped and it's falling down on our head. We only have so much time that we can use. And so what we've done is we've determined exactly what kind of action plan you need to end the divorce, right? And close the gap between you and your husband or your wife, so that then you have the opportunity to fully restore your marriage and get back to those happy days that we first went over, right? We first talked about that. And so what's really important to know is that you cannot apply the same techniques when your marriage is just struggling or on the rocks, or when your spouse is checked out, or they're kind of like doing that teeter-totter effect. They're kind of in and kind of out. No, you need a very specific action plan if divorce is on the line. So without further ado, let's go right into these action plans to take all the overwhelm out of it for you. Today, we're going to talk about some little known secrets. And here they are. Pushing for reconciliation most often pushes them further away. And so here are some common mistakes and some common things that people do absolutely wrong. And even a counselor or pastor might encourage you to do this, to say, we need to work on us. We need to reconcile. You need to work on this with me. And anytime you're doing anything like that, these kind of desperation, this desperation, I want to get them back so badly. That kind of energy just often pushes them even further away. And if you think about it, it makes sense. Imagine that you're in a room with someone and they are so tense and they are so fearful and they are in desperation. And they come to you and they're like, we need to work on us and we need to do this, right? And you can feel that tension. You can feel their desperation. Instinctively, what do we want to do? We want to pull away so that we can feel safe. And so when we're bringing that kind of desperation and fear and pressure to our spouse, it's only going to push them further away. And getting someone to consider stopping a divorce often requires a lot of preparation. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's not the easiest thing to do at all. And that's why so few succeed. However, that's why our clients do succeed, is we give them this preparation. We give them the action plan. We give them the steps. But because it takes so much preparation and so much action in the right way, most people give up before they're even ready to begin. They just say, it's too little too late. It takes two to tango. They want a divorce, it's over. They say they don't love me. Well, what can I do? Right? And they don't even understand, they just give up before they're even ready to begin. And they don't really get into what will actually solve the problem. And they don't even see the possibility of it. So I want you to open up your mind, open up a space inside of yourself to allow some inspiration to come in and to consider the possibilities that you can help your spouse to consider stopping the divorce. It is possible with the right method, and in a method that doesn't take a lot of, it economizes the time so that we can speed up the results that we need to see and get them to consider stopping the divorce quickly. Okay. So don't fall into this trap of overly pushing for reconciliation, because that's only going to push them further away. And don't fall into the trap of giving up before you're even ready to begin. All right. And here are a couple more really common mistakes. Getting angry over a spouse leaving or things that they have done. And this is very natural. It's very normal. But when you're acting out of state of just pure anger and pure tension and pure pain, often what we want to do is make them feel the pain that we felt, right? We want to show them how much they've hurt us. If they care about me, maybe they'll see how much I'm hurting and then they'll stop. But what happens is that this does not solve the problem. It does not solve the problem. And it usually only makes it worse, because here we start adding fire to fire. It's like dumping gasoline onto a very hot, volatile situation as it is. It doesn't work. And more importantly, what I want you to understand is the mindset here that when we are focusing on the problem and we're focusing on the pain, we're focusing on our anger over what they've done or that they're leaving or things that they say they will do, that we are not open to the solution. Focusing on the pain, on the problem, does not solve the problem. It usually only makes it worse. And this is why what we do is radically different than what anyone else will do, because we have emotional processing techniques. Because I get it. There's something you have to do with that pain. Like, it's not just going to go away. We can't just ignore it. However, going to your spouse with it isn't going to solve it. And you fixating on it isn't going to solve it. So there's a way to process through that emotion to get to a calm, centered space so that you can not only see the solutions, but you can actually take action on the solutions. Okay? And then another really common mistake that we see is that we use obligations to try and stop the divorce. Obligations such as your religious beliefs, the wedding vows that you made, the commitment that you made to each other, obligations to the kids. And why this is such a common mistake, but a really dangerous mistake, is that you don't want them to feel obligated to stay. That's not why you want them to stay. You don't want to just pressure them into staying and do it out of obligation. No, go back to those really happy days in your marriage. Those happy days did not have that sense of I'm doing this out of obligation or a sense of duty. No, it's because I want to be with you. I want to be with you. I want to be here. I want to have this work. Okay? And so again, this is just another form of pressure that is only going to push them further away, typically. And if they do stay out of obligation, well, that's not what you want anyway. So let's make sure that we're laying the proper foundation here to really build a healthy relationship, to first stop the divorce and then build a healthy relationship. So what if there was a way to prevent making these really common mistakes when we are facing divorce with our husband or our wife? And so we can take the guesswork out of stopping the divorce. There's no more, overwhelm and confusion, spending hours on Google, hours of counseling that aren't getting you the results, and listening to a million different opinions, right? I was in there and in my own life going through cancer in a mode of absolute overwhelm at the beginning, as I was just, surrounded. I was just inundated. I was flooded by opinions and conflicting advice and conflicting solutions and all of this fear and uncertainty. And so what we want to do is just eliminate all of that and get to absolute clarity about what is going to work and work quickly and effectively and feel the best to us, that will feel like this is exactly what I need to do. It will resonate with who we are inside. So as you step into your empowerment and we have a sense of control and security about the situation with a proven step-by-step plan customized to exactly what you need to get your husband or wife back, that's exactly what we're going to do together. So before we get into that, though, I want to show you the number one killer mistake why 95% of people don't get their spouse back. They don't stop the divorce. And this is crucial because it is the foundation. We've talked about it before with our PATH method. However, I want you to understand this in a new light when we're bringing on the added intensity and the added pressure of divorce. Okay? So what we don't understand is 95% of people, they don't understand or uncover their spouse's reasons for leaving. It is so common. 95% of the time, people will come to us and they say, I have no idea why they're leaving. This just hit me out of the blue. I had no idea. I thought my marriage was doing really good. And all of a sudden, bam, they just hit me out of the blue with this, right? It was such a shock. I don't understand why they're leaving. I don't understand why they went to this affair partner. I don't know why they're doing this, right? And they focus on the symptoms rather than the root issues. Again, I mentioned earlier about getting fixated on our own pain, right? We get so fixated on our pain and what they're doing to us and how we are so hurt that we tend to fixate on that. And when we're in that energy, we cannot find the solutions. We need to understand what's going on beyond that pain and beyond those external actions that our spouse is taking or we are taking or have been going on in the relationship, such as money problems, parenting issues, affairs. All of those things are symptoms, and we need to understand that there is something deeper going on that is causing those to show up. We need to find out what the root issues are so that we can solve them there. And so what most people make, the mistake they make is they exert tons of energy, lots of energy into making positive changes. Okay. And what we found is that those positive changes seem to have no effect on their spouse. So making positive change alone is not enough. It's actually going to be one of our action steps. I'm going to go into that here in a little bit. But making positive changes alone is not enough. What we need to do is uncover and understand why our spouse is wanting a divorce. Okay, I'm going to go into an example here. This is Mike. Mike started off with us believing that his wife might be having an affair. Wasn't sure, but he noticed some behavior changes. Like she wasn't showing up at home, like going out to do different things. And he began to question his wife constantly, like barraging her with questions and doubt and uncertainty. By the time Mike came to us, he was confused as to why his wife was asking for a divorce. He didn't know. He had no idea, just like you and many other people. He was probably raising his hands like, I have no idea why she's wanting a divorce. And so he asked us whether she was just feeling guilty over her affair, believing this to be the cause of her pulling away. As we began to uncover things, we learned that all of his mistrust is what really hurt her. She was tired of being constantly accused, constantly questioned, and that right there prevented them from being able to have good, normal, civil conversations together. Makes sense, right? So when this point was better understood, it became easier to make adjustments and start fixing the problem. So Mike believed he had to stop an affair that might not have actually even happened, right? First, but to actually make real progress, we needed to make it safe to talk about any of those issues. And so that's what we're going to go into here. Into one of our first steps is to gain understanding and open up communication. As long as he was holding on to the story, oh, she's having an affair, we need to stop the affair for any progress to be made, and no absolute certainty that there was an affair, he was fixated on that symptom without understanding why she was even really pulling away. Why she was really pulling away was because she was tired of being mistrusted. She was tired of the 20 questions, right? And that pressure, she just couldn't take it anymore. And that was her reason for wanting to pull away. But when we showed him how to put down the story, his story, and how to understand what her story really was, that she was tired of being smothered and questioned and mistrusted, then he was able to understand, oh, wow, I can see now how all of my questioning and my doubting and my own fear led you to want to pull away and led you to saying, I've had enough of this. When he was able to show that understanding, that's when we're able to open up communication. So yes, when you do this, you will have real open communication with your husband and your wife. And I want to make the point again here that even if you barely talk right now, even if you can't have a civil conversation like Mike did, right? Even if they're completely closed off, they're resistant to talking about the marriage. They're resistant to talking to you, period. It's uncomfortable. It's tense. Maybe they feel cold, or you can only talk about surface level things. You can't get deep. You can't get them to really open up. That is why we need to apply this understanding and open up communication so that we can build upon that. We have to give understanding first. We have to give understanding first. It's the whole idea that we have built that you must save your marriage by going first. Save your marriage on your own by starting first. Don't wait for them because they're checked out, they want a divorce, and demanding for them to do it or waiting for them to show a sign first is going to lead to a divorce. It's going to lead to the end of the relationship because you're not in a position there where that's likely to happen. You're the one wanting to work on things, so you need to give understanding first, okay? And establish this milestone, which allows our partner to open up, right? So we have to give it first. And when we do, then they feel safe, they feel secure. There's a measure of understanding and there's a measure of calmness when you come to your spouse and you say, I just want to understand you. What are you going through? What are you hoping to achieve here? What are you hoping that this divorce will give you in your life? How can I support you? How can I help you in what you're going through? Without any agenda of trying to get them back, without any manipulation or fear or desperation to try to pull them back towards you. It's a completely different energy and they will feel it. They will feel that you genuinely care, that you genuinely want to understand them. Just like Mike genuinely shifted from, oh, she's having an affair, we need to stop it, to, I want to understand you. And then she felt safe enough to open up and tell him why she was leaving, which had nothing to do with an affair and had everything to do with it. She wanted to feel trusted. She wanted to feel validated. She wanted to feel secure herself in the relationship. And then as they were able to gain that understanding and open up that communication, then we were able to get on and working on stopping the divorce. But this is the very first step. Gain understanding and open communication. And after you do this first, after this milestone is established, then we can bring it into balance later, right? At the right time. And we'll guide you on exactly when that time is and ask our partner for understanding as well. Okay, so we're not demanding anything from them until after we've established the milestone and established understanding with them and open up communication. Then is the right time that we can ask our partner for understanding for us. And that's when we bring the whole thing back into balance and it feels awesome, right? So yes, you will finally have open, real communication with your husband or with your wife. And I just want to share with you in our clients' words exactly the results that they are getting by applying this first step, gain understanding and open communication. So here's Russ. Step one of communication. So they called Heather, not me, his wife Heather. And I've shared this before, but I really want you to understand that they were on the divorce track, right? The train was heading right towards that cliff and they were about to go off the edge. All right. So showing how far he came as he applied this. So he called her in the middle of a busy afternoon, remained upbeat and in the context that I was just thinking about her and would be home late because of a board meeting. She totally engaged. No 20 questions to get a conversation out of her. And she mirrored my upbeat demeanor. After some good exchange, I quit well ahead. I like that. He just knows when's good, when's enough. And said I'd see her in a couple of hours and she pleasantly said goodbye. This is 180 degrees from what I have experienced over the last few months. I may be able to concentrate a little more on work this afternoon, which has been a huge challenge recently. So 180 degree in this kind of communication. She engaged, she opened up, they had a good, pleasant conversation, upbeat demeanor, and a pleasant goodbye, right? Which is 180 degrees from where they were just over the last few months. So that's what shows how this works. And I need to plug in my Mac. So how this method actually works to open up communication. There we go. Now my Mac has battery, yay. Let's keep going. All right, so this is Daniel, and this is actually a very brand new one. I've never shared it before, but again, here they were pushing for divorce, Sam, his wife, and Daniel. So just 2 months ago, Sam and I couldn't have more than a 2-minute conversation. We hear that all the time, like I can't talk for maybe more than a minute or two before it just goes bad, or they just completely check out, or they give you the silent treatment, or they just leave, right? So that was what they were in as well. And every time I asked her why she was leaving or if she would just work on things, it was always a closed door. I did what you said and worked on showing understanding first. She must have sensed that because she's really open up to me now. We've had some amazing conversations, and I feel like I'm coming to understand her more and more. This is huge for us, Daniel. Awesome. So again, it's that shifting the energy. So could your marriage benefit from that type of communication? You should be nodding your head. Yes, I would love to have that kind of communication. And again, this isn't an exaggeration. 100% of the time when our clients apply this method to gain understanding and open up communication, they are able to open up that communication, whereas they couldn't before. So step 2 is going into making changes. This is where we adjust things a little bit differently from our path method or anything else, because the divorce cure is very specific to the divorce situation. So what we want to do here is create a foundation that will allow for a healthy relationship. By uncovering and understanding, what our spouse's needs are. So here we understand why they're leaving. We uncover what they're really needing. What are their goals? What are they hoping to achieve? Is it that security? Is it that trust? Is it significance? Is it fun? Is it passion? Is it variety? Is it, just the feeling of significance, the feeling of importance, right? When we uncover what that is, then we provide that. And when we provide that, we start to show our spouse that we're making these positive changes and that they can be happy with us again. So in this stage, we do some very important steps here based on your individual marriage fingerprint, because yours is different than anyone else's. And so based on what's needed here, there may be a couple different things. It could be a variety of these. You might have some of these in place. You might have none of these in place. If you're missing one or two, then we definitely want to go in and diagnose exactly what that is so that we can establish that healthy foundation. We're going to learn to create healthy boundaries, which is crucial for increasing security and trust. Healthy boundaries is what is going to give you security and trust, and give your husband or wife security and trust in you and in the relationship. We're going to deepen the healthy communication and even get into, increasing the intimacy with fun, flirty, healthy talks, bringing the positive interactions back as we make some changes. Because right now they've kind of associated us with something really unpleasant. That's something really painful, something that they don't want, right? And I know that's hard to hear, but that's the reality, is that they associate us with something uncomfortable, painful, unpleasant. And so what we want to do is show them they can be pleasant with us. They can associate us with having good, positive experiences based on what they need, right? And then we deepen intimacy and connection. That helps us feel safe, close, and happy, and ensure that we solve all problems, any problems at their roots, which will equal genuine love for each other. And so here is where we must be willing to go first without waiting for our spouse to quote unquote get on board, right? And again, when this milestone is established, we bring it into balance and ask our husband or wife to make positive changes and meet our needs. But it always has to start with us first. We must be willing to go first. We must be willing to make positive changes first before we see any from them. And that takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of courage. However, it is worth it, because this is what is going to take to stop the divorce and get our spouse back to us. All right, step 3 is change their narrative. So here is where we want to make sure that we're not just making positive changes because you might be like my friends right now, that he's making all these positive changes and she's in the mode of doubting whether they are genuine, doubting if it's just a manipulation tactic to try to get her back, doubting if she does come back, that he's just going to go back to his old ways and that these changes won't stick. And that is why it is so crucial that making positive changes alone is not enough, because what's happened is that our husband, our wife they changed the story that they have created about us, created about the relationship, so they can see the possibility of being happy with us again. Many other counselors, coaches, pastors, etc. totally miss this. They'll focus on the symptoms. We will focus on the symptoms. They will focus on the pain. They'll focus on the external things, not going to the root issue and not understanding that unless we change the story, they won't believe that the changes are real anyway. And they're going to be so stuck in their own story that they'll continue forward with the divorce. And so we must change their story in this way so that they can see the possibility of being happy with us. And here's Mike. For 8 months, I was trying to make changes. 8 months, right? Some of you are probably like shaking your head. It's been 8 years. I've been trying to make changes. Maybe it's been 8 weeks or 8 days. Either way, you know how exhausting it is, right? For 8 months, I was trying to make changes to show Cammie that I was a new person. I did everything I could think of, and nothing seemed to make much difference. Talk about frustrating. Until I used your method and finally helped her to change her story about me. It was, well, just like what you said. Now she sees the changes I've made, and our hope for the future is rising. It's working. That's awesome. All right, and then I want to share just another example of this. His name is Tom. So Tom's wife, Sarah, had been hurt in their marriage. She felt her relationship with her in-laws, and she felt her relationship. All right, I wanted to share another story about Tom. Tom's wife, Sarah, had been hurt in their marriage. She felt her relationship with her in-laws and our client, Tom, had become toxic. And, she was just done. Just like, I'm done. By the time Tom came our way, he had taken some steps to fix things, but it just wasn't enough. His wife, Sarah, kept talking about how things were too far gone, right? And she couldn't get over her pain. She's like, I just can't get over her pain. It is just too far gone. So Tom, he made some huge changes. He changed his work schedule. He started talking to his wife, really listening to her. He fixed things with their son. He even stood up to his parents and set relationship boundaries, some big boundaries there to keep Sarah safe. Ultimately, he actually even sacrificed his relationship with his parents for their marriage. But still, Sarah was feeling too hurt from what had happened. When Tom started implementing techniques to turn the story around, Sarah started to agree to go to family therapy, and together they found ways to heal from their pain, and Sarah started to see how she could recover. She began to see a future together with all of them as a family. So by changing their story, we were able to turn a corner and get everyone working together to be happy. That's exactly how it works. So, this is actually step 3. I apologize. I didn't change the text at the top. Here in step 3, we want to buy 6 months of time. What we've seen is that if we can slow down the process of divorce and gain 6 months of time, the opportunity to get our husband or wife to fall back in love with us greatly increases. Now, and this comes to my mind right here is that Chris's wife, one of our clients, Chris's wife, she was having an affair, and she told Chris that it was over when he found out, right? She promptly moved out soon after, and over the next several months, Chris began making big changes in his life. He adjusted his schedule to be at home with the kids more. He became less angry. He asked more questions. He was more supportive. He stopped blowing up when talking about problems, right? And his wife started noticing the changes. The thing is, she didn't immediately come back to the marriage. It took her new relationship completely blowing up and falling apart, right? As relationships that started in affairs often do, because they're not built on a healthy marriage. And so it took that, all happening before she began to realize that her husband actually had been a great source of support, even though she had hurt him. So Chris made decisions and was consistent for months before his wife turned around and began to consider working on things. Initially, his wife, she wanted a divorce. She wanted to go be with her affair partner. But by slowing down that process and getting her to back off from the idea, it bought him the time needed to make the difference. And here's another one. My wife just messaged me and she wants to work on us. Right. And a few days later, he talks about how she actually took the divorce papers and he got really scared, but she actually took them and threw them in the trash. Thank you for everything. I'm still standing in prayer and sticking with the program. We have a long way to go. God is so good. Awesome. So yeah, this divorce cure increases hope. And here is when one of our clients let us know Katie is putting her wedding ring back on. Now with Katie, she couldn't fathom how she could fall in love with her husband again. Truly, I did a lot of work with her. They had drifted too far apart, and she wished she could turn those feelings on, but she just couldn't. She's like, I just can't feel for him. I just can't feel love for him. And so our client, Tim, we changed his name here, but he had taken time to understand her concerns. He made huge efforts to change, including change his internal story that was subconsciously preventing him from having the love that he really wanted. And he was generally being very upbeat, very positive, very encouraging. But Katie, she still wasn't budging. She says, love should just happen. She argued with me, or it doesn't happen at all. So we started to work with Tim to help him communicate hope. We identified things that Katie wanted for the relationship. We helped Tim plan ways to get there. We accounted for difficulties and obstacles and helped him communicate his motivations. Eventually, Katie began to see that there might be some possibilities and incrementally began to allow Tim to make some first steps. And this grew and increased until they were both fully working on the relationship. That's what happens when you can have your spouse agree to stop the divorce, give you some time, and then apply making these positive changes and increasing understanding, is that they have the hope, and then they can do what Katie did here and put their wedding ring back on. So ask yourself, do I want to use this action plan, or do I want to stay in the overwhelm? Do I want to buy 6 months of time so I can have my spouse fall back in love with me? Would I like to cuddle on the couch again? Would I like to know that they threw those divorce papers in the trash? Would I like to see them put the...
All right, I'm going to pause my slides here and jump on over to my webcam. I think it's working. Okay, where'd I go? Right. Sorry about that. All kinds of issues going on here. So I hope you guys are able to hear me here at the end. It looks like I'm having some connection issues, so I apologize about that. But basically, just really sinking into the idea of having this can be the very best years of your marriage, even though they can be the most challenging times to go through. And I just wanted to answer a question over here that I got, that I tried to buy 6 months and change the narrative, but in Reboot and Path, I have yet to hear how. So that's exactly what this program is designed to do, is for the divorce cure. Relationship Reboot does not go specifically into this kind of changing the narrative. And Path just started. You're only one training session into the live Path course. So this program is a really intense program where we're coaching you one-on-one to know your exact marriage thumbprint, your exact marriage fingerprint, so that you can get the solutions that you need to move quickly. And we just guided my good friend on how to ask his wife to give her 6 months of time. And so there's specific ways that we need to do that, knowing your exact situation. If they're in love with someone else, it's going to look different compared to if someone just says, I don't love you anymore, or I'm tired of you not listening to me, right? Every single situation is so specific. So that's why you need the guidance of an expert. And that's what makes this so different. It's like if when I was diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer, when I was pregnant, I did not go to my general doctor. I did not go to a self-help book. I did not get a self-help manual, and I did not take a self-help course. No, I went to the best expert in the world, one of the top 5 experts for treating young women with breast cancer. And I did exactly what she said, because I knew that she had the solutions that I needed to know. And I'll never forget sitting in her office being terrified. I was 15 weeks pregnant by the time we met with her, sitting there with Ben, and she comes waltzing into the room, this very loud, vivacious Texas woman. And she said, Heather, I know you're scared, but for me, it's just another Tuesday. And at first I was kind of like, oh, wow, that was a little abrasive or something. But as I was thinking about it, it made so much sense, because to me, I was in the fight of my life and I was terrified. And for me, this was the biggest, hardest thing that had ever happened to me. Just like probably for those of you watching and those of you who are in the divorce process, this may be one of the biggest, scariest things that have ever happened to you. right? But for Mark and I and our team here at High Thrive Coaching, it's just another Thursday because today's Thursday. And whenever you join the program, it will be just another one of those days because we know exactly what to do. And when she said it's just another Tuesday, that helped me know I was in the hands of someone capable that could take the overwhelm out of it, that could take the confusion out of it. And they had the solutions that I needed to navigate the myriad of challenges and difficulties that we faced to save my life and to save my unborn baby's life. And we navigated that successfully, and we overcame those challenges with her knowledge and with her expertise. And so I don't need to tell you this, you guys know this, being here in the Thriving Marriage. Mark Johnston is one of the best experts, marriage experts in the world. He's one of the most sought after, and our coaches that are on our team are the most highly qualified and most highly trained experts on how to stop divorce. And we are able to help couples where most counselors and coaches turn them away because they say, I'm sorry, if your spouse says they want a divorce, it's too late. There's nothing you can do. And we've proved time and time again that that's false. 95% of the time, marriage can be saved. And so we need to know if that's you. And we need to know if you might fall into one of the two very rare exceptions of where it cannot be saved or should not be saved. But in order to really know that, we need to do a deep dive with you. And we call that a breakthrough session where we can explore what's going on exactly with your relationship, if this program is the right fit for you. And then we can talk about working together for this intense program. If you're in the process of divorce, you need an intense solution. You need an intense remedy. That's why we call it a cure. It's not that it happens overnight, but that it's a process that's proven to get you the results that you want. However, time's not on your side, and you know this. You can feel like the hourglass is flipped and the sand's trickling down on your head, right? I can hear some of you like, yeah, that makes so much sense. I can see that. And so you know that you don't have a lot of time. And so that's why we've designed this program specifically for those already in the divorce process. It's an intense program. If that's not you, then this is not the program for you. Like if things are just rocky right now, then one of our other programs would be better suited. But this is specifically for those in the process of divorce. And we have just launched our Divorce Cure Coaching Program. We just opened doors for 15 people. We literally had 2 people sign up the first day, and I think it was like 3 yesterday. So we're down to just 10 spots open. And once they're filled, because we go in deep and give you the handheld approach so that there's no guesswork for you. You know exactly what needs to happen. We create shifts on an internal level for you so that you're not in that clench mode. You're not in that fear or desperation mode that only pushes your spouse further away. But you're able to truly, energetically, like a magnet, draw them to you. And you're in a state where you know that all is well, no matter what. And that internal state of peace and security is worth everything. So if this resonates with you and you would like to have one of the few last remaining spots for this Divorce Cure Coaching Program, then leave a comment and say, me, yes, I want in. I want this. Yes. Leave a comment. I want in. Yes, me. And I will make sure that I get you the link so that you can book a free breakthrough call to go into that. So I appreciate you all, and my heart, my love, my appreciation goes out to you. I pray about you every single day. I may not know you personally, but I'm grateful for the privilege and the honor that I have to be part of your life. And I pray that you take action to find the solutions that you need for your family and for the generations to come that will be affected by the choices that you make. And above all, so that you can look back at the end of your life and know that you became who you were meant to be and that you didn't just give up. I was just talking to my friend again, and he was saying, my other counselor is saying, I just need to give up. And you guys are not saying that at all. You're saying detach from the outcome, but it's possible. And because it's possible, it's worth it to understand and to pursue it. Because the giving up energy is tragic, because that leaves you in a state where you're actually depleted even more than you are right now because you gave up. It's not the same thing at all. I've seen people going through cancer who gave up, and their case could have found healing. And even if they do make it through, their treatment and they do survive the cancer, they are a frail, fragile, hollow version of themselves. And they did not allow this challenge that they're facing, same thing with divorce, the challenge that you're facing, to strengthen them and to help them become the very best version of themselves. So the opportunity is here right for you. And I appreciate you. We'll talk to you guys soon. Again, if you want in, leave a comment. Me, yes, I want one of the last few spots, and I'll make sure I see you over there. Take care, guys. We'll talk soon.